Hey everyone, thanks for tuning in. Steven here with Team Euphoric, and this is day 15 of the 80 Days to Your Dream Body course. Today's protein source is going to be pork chops, and today is an active recovery day. So right now, I'm going to be taking you through a full upper body stretching routine. Let's get started. Next, we are going to move on to the PNF stretching for the upper body. For the upper body, we're going to do the same thing. We're going to start with the superficial back line. So we're going to do the posterior chain. We're going to start proximal to distal. And then we're going to move on to the anterior aspect of the body. And we're going to go proximal to distal. For the posterior fibers, posterior chain, what we want to do is first up is going to be the rhomboids major and minor. For the rhomboids major and minor, this is going to be a bilateral stretch. You can perform it unilaterally, but I'm going to be performing it as a bilateral stretch. What you would want to do is just kind of go into as much protraction as possible. Then you're going to retract and depress the scapula. You're going to hold that for 6 seconds. After 6 seconds, relax and just lean away. Do that for 10 seconds. Then we're going to contract. So squeeze those shoulder blades down and together. And relax. And come back. And we've got one more. We're going to contract. And relax. On this final one, we're going to hold it for 20 seconds. And then the rest of the stretches are all going to be ipsilateral exercises. So we're going to be doing one arm at a time. All right, perfect. The first one is going to be for the posterior deltoid. I'm going to start with my right side. For the posterior deltoid, again, it is responsible for extension, abduction, and lateral rotation. So we want to do the opposite. We want to go into flexion, medial rotation, and adduction. So with your palm facing away from your body, you're going to go ahead and grab a hold of the strap. And then on approximately a 45 to 90 degree angle. So right now, my arm is at about 45 degrees. This would be 90. That's about 45. I want to rotate out this way. And I want to just lean away. That way, I've got that medial rotation, I've got the adduction, and I've got the flexion. If you want to get more flexion, just sink down into it. Then to do the contraction, we're going to pull across and back. So imagine that you are rounding your shoulder backward. So you're just going to contract, hold that for 6 seconds, and relax. Go into medial rotation, horizontal adduction, flexion. So we're doing flexion and adduction as a combo move. So we're going on an oblique angle. Contract, hold for 6, and relax. Really lean into it. And then we're going to do one more time. Contract. Hold on. After 6 seconds, relax. Lean away. And on this final one, we're going to hold on for 20 seconds. And relax. Next up, we've got the latissimus dorsi muscle. For the latissimus dorsi muscle, the lats are responsible for extension, medial rotation, adduction. So we want to go into flexion, lateral rotation, and abduction. We're going to reach up and over our heads. I don't know how comfortable this is going to be for me right now because my lats are pretty damn tight and my triceps are destroyed from yesterday's arm workout. Oh, that's actually not too bad. So what we want to do is we are going to place our arm right. So we want our arm as high into flexion as we can, as much abduction by getting it across the midline. And then what we want to do for this one right over here is we are going to go forward on an angle. That way we can induce more lateral rotation of the humerus. Then we're going to contract. So we're going to pull. So imagine you're trying to pull this way. So you're going on an angle. Once again, relax. Try and cross the midline as much as you can. If you want to get even more, rotate your body to the side that you're stretching. So I'm stretching my right, I'm going to rotate to the right. That way I could get more lateral rotation of the humerus. Contract and relax. Ugh. And rotate away. 20 seconds. And relax. Next up is going to be the triceps, the long head. For the triceps, we can maintain this position. We just don't need to induce that rotation. So we don't need the medial or lateral rotation of the humerus. All we need to do is focus on the shoulder flexion and elbow flexion, because the long head of the triceps is responsible for extension at the shoulder and extension at the elbow. So for this one, all we're doing is focusing on the maximum flexion and maximum flexion at the shoulder and elbow. Straighten out the elbow and relax. Lean forward a little bit. That's going to allow you to get a little bit more flexion of the elbow. And contract. Try and straighten out that elbow. And I think I'm at about as much tension on the band as possible because it's tough for me to contract. Relax. Lean a little bit more. Contract. And relax. Let's try and get a little bit more flexion by going a little bit more closer to parallel to the ground. And relax. Oh, that was a great stretch. I needed that after yesterday's arm workout. Now that we ended up doing everything on the right side, all that's left is to do the same thing on the left side. Again, the rhomboids major and minor was a bilateral stretch, so we don't need to do that one again. We're going to start with the posterior deltoid. Posterior deltoid, we are going into flexion, medial rotation, and adduction. So for this one right over here, I'm going to be facing this way over here. So right now, my palm is facing the floor, and because my arm is draped across my body, I'm doing flexion by having my arm in front and adduction by bringing my arm across the midline. And then what I want to do is I'm going to pull. So I'm going to imagine that I'm bringing my shoulder blade back. So I'm bringing my deltoid close to my spine and relax. So go into medial rotation of the humerus, flexion and adduction. Then to contract, we're going to go into extension, abduction, and lateral rotation. So really try and do this type of motion. So imagine that you're doing this with the band. And relax. So again, we're starting in pronation, palm is facing down. When we do the contraction, we're going to go into lateral rotation. So we're going to move the arm out. You're not pronating and supinating the forearm. I accidentally said pronation. I meant medial rotation. You want to actively go into lateral rotation of the humerus as you pull it across. And relax. Last one. Next, we are going to be going into the latissimus dorsi. So once again, the latissimus dorsi is responsible for extension, medial rotation, adduction. So we are going to go into flexion, lateral rotation, and abduction. Main thing for this one is we really want to try and get flexion by crossing the midline and adduction. And then to induce that lateral rotation, we're going to go on an angle. That way the band pulls us into lateral rotation. Yeah, you should be getting, you're going to feel this in the triceps too, because it's a very similar stretch. But we're going to contract and relax. And then just lean forward, rotate toward the side you're stretching to induce a little bit more lateral rotation of the humerus. Contract. And again, lean forward, rotate away. And then we've got one more. Contract And relax. Really get into it. So you should be feeling a nice intense stretch all along the lats and the triceps. And then to get into the triceps, all we're going to do is back off a little bit. And we don't want to get that medial or that lateral rotation of the shoulder. So all we need to do this one is, instead of being on an angle, we're straight, the band is straight behind us. So for this one, lean forward a little bit. That way we can get a little bit more flexion of the elbow, because that's going to be very important for the triceps. Contract, straighten out the elbow, and relax. So walk forward to get that flexion, lean forward to get the flexion in the elbow. By walking forward, that's going to bring the shoulder into flexion. By leaning forward, you're going to get a little bit more flexion of the elbow. So walk forward to get that flexion in the shoulder, lean forward, contract, relax. We got one more. Contract, relax, and lean forward. And that is it for the posterior chain in the upper body. Next, we are going to move on to the anterior chain. So we're going to start at the pec major, work our way to the anterior deltoid, and then work our way down to the biceps brachii. For the pectoralis major, this is once again going to be an ipsilateral stretch. Real quick, pec major, what does it do? It does flexion, medial rotation, and abduction. So we want to do the opposite. We want to take it into extension, lateral rotation, and abduction. So we're going to be bringing it into this position over here. Since I started on the right side, I'm going to be doing the right side once again. But what you want to do is, so from this position right over here, I'll show you step by step. What we want to do, to go into abduction, we're just going to walk away, and that's going to naturally bring us into abduction. To go into extension, we're going to walk forward. And then to go into lateral rotation, we're going to turn our palm up toward the ceiling and rotate out. Then we're going to contract. So pull in, and then exhale, relax. Walk forward on an angle, rotate your body. And then you should be getting a nice stretch all along the pec. If you're not feeling it too much, you could even get a little bit lower. So get into a lunge position. Contract the chest. So do a pec fly or an incline cable fly, and relax and rotate. So really focus on that lateral rotation of the humerus, as well as that abduction. Contract and relax. Next, we are going to be moving on to the anterior deltoid. For the anterior deltoid, it's flexion, medial rotation, abduction. So we want to go into extension, lateral rotation, and in order to get the adduction, we are going to have the band cross us behind the back. So we want to take it, we're going to place it just at the distal humerus. We want to start out in lateral rotation, get the arm behind us, and we're just going to walk across. So make sure that that arm is sitting down. If you want a little bit more tension, you could also side bend at the cervical spine away and look up to the sky. To do the PNF, we're going to round our shoulder forward. So we're going to go into flexion, medial rotation, and for the adduction, you could push into your or abduction, you could just push away. And then relax. For this one, we could even, if you wanted to, rotate a little bit. But for me personally, I find that I get a much better stretch if I'm at about a 45-degree angle to the positioning of my hips. Play around with the angles. Everybody's body is going to be a little bit differently. You may feel a better stretch if you are straight on. You may feel a better stretch at 45. You may feel a better stretch if you're at 90. Contract. So really focus on that medial rotation. as well as the abduction and the flexion, and relax. I think that was the final one. So we've got 20 seconds. And relax. And then the last one for the anterior chain is going to be the biceps brachii. The biceps brachii, it is responsible for, if we're talking about the long head, flexion at the glenohumeral joint, so we're going to want to go into extension. Flexion at the elbow, so we're going to want to go into extension. Supination of the forearm, so we're going to want to go into pronation. That is going to be the end position. In order to get to that, what we want to do is we are going to place the resistance band or the strength band around the palm of our hand. We are going to walk back to get that nice extension. If this isn't enough extension for you, what you would do is just get into a kneeling position. That way you could get even more extension. Then, from this position right over here, we want to make sure that we are in pronation. So we're squeezing those shoulder blades together to create as much tension on the anterior fascia of the glenohumeral joint. And then we're just going to bring the arm forward and flex. So imagine you're trying to do a curl. And relax. We're just going to get a little bit deeper into it. So we're in pronation right now. Our palm should be facing behind us. We're not facing like this. Flex. So turn that palm over, contract, try and flex the shoulder, flex the elbow, and relax. And now we're back into pronation again. Was that pass number 2 or 3? Let's do one more just in case. Flex. And relax. If you want to get a little bit more flexion, just extend your thoracic spine and you'll get more flexion in the shoulder or more extension in the shoulder. And that concludes the right arm or the left arm if you were doing the left. Next, we are going to move on to the opposite limb. We have 3 more stretches. Once again, we've got the pec major. Again, pec major, flexion, medial rotation, adduction. So we want to place it just above the crook of the elbow. And then what we want to do for this one is we are going to, in order to induce an adduction, or in order to induce extension, we're just going to lean forward. In order to induce the lateral rotation, what we want to do is we are just going to rotate away. And then in order to induce an abduction, what we could do for this one right over here is there's a couple things. We could either just lift up the arm or we could get into a lunge position. By getting into a lunge position, a secondary option that you can do for this stretch is place your hand on the back of your head. So I'm going to do it this way for this example. And then to elicit the PNF, bring the elbow forward. And relax. So give both a try, see which one you prefer. Just going to lean forward now. And contract. And relax. Lean forward. Contract. And relax. So give both a try, see which one you prefer. Next, we're going to do the anterior deltoid. For the anterior deltoid, flexion, medial rotation, abduction. So what we want to do is we are going to go into extension by walking forward. We're going to go into lateral rotation by rotating away. And then on a 45-degree angle to induce the adduction, we're just going to try and get that arm as much behind our body as possible. For the PNF, contract. So bring the arm away and try and press out. So you're going out, rotating over. So you're going into medial rotation. And then relax. Lateral rotation, extension, adduction. The band right now is positioned perfectly. It's hooked right onto the crook of the elbow. To do whatever I want with this hand, it's not going to slide off. Contract. And relax. One more time. Contract. Relax. And now let's come out of it. Last one for the biceps brachii. Again, it does shoulder flexion, elbow flexion, supination of the forearm. So we're going to go into extension of the shoulder, extension of the elbow, pronation of the forearm. So this is the starting position. If you're not feeling too much of a stretch in the biceps, what we would do, get into that lunge position that way and stick the chest out. That way we could get more extension of the glenohumeral joint. And I should have brought a mat with me because this turf is not very pleasant on the knees. Contract. And relax. Come forward a little bit, get a little deeper into it. I'm going to stick that chest out. That way I can get a little bit more extension. Also, it would benefit you to go into anteversion of the pelvis. That way you put the abdominal fascia under tension, which transfers into pectoral fascia, which transfers into the fascia of the anterior deltoid. Contract. Relax. And I'm going to just rotate a little bit more this way. Contract. And relax. 20 seconds, and then we're all done. Just rotate a little bit more. There we go. Okay. And that concludes the active recovery. And that is it for day 15 of the 80 Days to Your Dream Body course. Comment down below. Let me know which of the mobilization exercises you really enjoyed. If you had trouble with any of them, let me know what your questions are. I could help you out a little bit. Same thing with the stretches. Let me know which ones were your favorites. Let me know if you need any modifications, if you need any help with any of them. But otherwise, that is it for day 15 of the 80 Days to Your Dream Body course. I will see you again tomorrow. Thanks for sticking around until the end of the video. Be sure to like, share, and leave a comment as it'll help the algorithm. And if you enjoyed the content, show your support by subscribing to the channel by clicking on the icon in the bottom right corner. And if you really want to show your support, then consider becoming a member by clicking on the icon in the bottom left corner. These new high-quality videos aren't cheap to edit, and the $5 membership will really help with the video editing budget. You'll also get access to a ton of exclusive perks like early access to videos and this program design lecture playlist in the top right-hand corner. And if you want to learn how to do a one-armed pull-up, then check out the playlist on the top left corner.